Go ahead and call the USD 49 Board of Education meeting for Monday, May 20th, 2019 to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Would make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Next thing on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anyone out in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next thing is the Best of the Best Awards. Our Best of the Best Awards are sponsored by Gella's, Tiger Burgers, and Handyman for Hire. And it's the time where we get to recognize one student and one staff member for their accomplishments or service to the district. And tonight our staff member is Maria Lozano, and she is nominated by Carrie Lacey.
Okay, so I nominated Miss Maria Lozano. She has been hired as a kindergarten and ELL para in the district. She is also a translator for USD 489, but she is so much more than that. Every day, Maria can be seen giving hugs and holding hands of our little ones. Maria is our connection between school and our Hispanic families. Anytime that we need someone to communicate with our Spanish-speaking families, Maria comes to the rescue. Maria knows so much about our families that when a little one is not feeling well, she not only knows who to call, but she knows where to call. No matter what is going on in her own life, Maria always has a smile on her face and is dependable and willing to help no matter what we need. She's been with the district. This is her 10th year. At night, you can find Maria working her second job, where she also encounters many of our families. The kids love seeing her outside of our school and are so excited to tell their families who Miss Maria is. Let's see. Maria takes her job at Lincoln very seriously and works so hard to help everyone. Miss Jolene Vidstem sent this statement to me when I told her that Maria had won the Best of the Best award. I just wanted to say that Maria is truly the best of the best. She goes above and beyond in her work with children. She is patient, kind, and loving to each child in the classroom, as well as the students of the kindergarten classroom outside of the kindergarten classroom. She is just simply a wonderful coworker and a friend to all. So that pretty much sums it up. We are so lucky to have Miss Maria at Lincoln and at USD 489. So now you get to go and shake everything. Nope, doesn't matter.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the important part. We also had a student nomination, and I don't believe he is here tonight, or is Mr. Brown here? I can't always see behind the podium if people are hiding behind there. So our student nomination was Seth Samoya, and he was nominated by Jerry Brown from Hayes Middle School. And Mr. Brown had this to say about Seth: I have been Seth's teacher for the past 3 years, having an honor to watch him grow and mature into an amazing young man. Seth's transition to middle school was challenging and stressful. I witnessed his underachievement, lack of motivation, and social withdrawal. Upon return, after that summer, a new Seth emerged, matching the qualities we knew existed within him. 7th grade was a new start, and he was blossoming. His achievement improved, his motivation was intrinsic, and his social circle grew. He became a leader among his peers and a friend to all. A kind spirit and giving nature emerged from a once sullen adolescent. His 8th grade year is a magnificent extension of his progress. Seth continues to achieve academically and is a model student in the classroom. His artistic talents have been showcased both in and out of school. His dedication and determination to improve not only but his classmates' experiences made him the best of the best. So if we could give Seth a round of applause. And thank you once again to our sponsors. Next, we have communications from other organizations, and I think Lincoln Elementary Site Council is going to come right back up. So, it's the Carrie Lacey Show.
Oh, gosh, that is scary. Okay, so our site council met, and I have to say that this is probably one of the meetings that I am most proud of, because I had almost 22, I think 21 or 22 people at my site council meeting when I held it earlier in the year. And then I have so many members that have offered to be part of that site council, so I think that's pretty cool that they want to be involved with Lincoln and be involved with what's going on there. So Lincoln Elementary School, the school that links learning to life. Our site council members, you can see that we have a wide variety, which I think is really awesome. We have representatives from the New Life Center, Hayes Medical Center. We have classified staff. Patty's here tonight. We have self-employed or stay-at-home mom, Bethesda Place, Smoky Hill Service Center. We have a certified staff member. She works at the middle school who also has students in our school. Fort Hays State student and a Fort Hays State employee. So we have a wide variety of entities represented, which I think is really, really cool. We have 12 classroom teachers. We share 2 PE teachers, 3 art teachers, 1 music teacher that we share between 2 buildings, a half-time librarian, a .3 psych. We also share 3 counselors, but not anymore. I'm so excited about that. We'll have a full-time counselor next year. We have 2 title teachers, 3 sped teachers, and 1 speech and language. Our classified staff, we have 2 cooks, 1 dishwasher, 1 secretary, 2 custodians, a computer tech, 2 classroom aides, 2 ELL paras, 6 sped paras, an OT PT that come on an as-needed basis, 2 lunchroom helpers, 2 crossing guards, and 4 after-school care ladies that help us with that. As of this year, our enrollment was 243, and you can just kind of see how that's disaggregated through our classes. Our largest class, actually we have 3 classes, 3 grade levels with 43, which was our 2nd grade, our 4th grade, and our 5th grade. These numbers to me are alarming at Lincoln. Our clientele has changed quite a bit. We have, if you look from 2014 to 2018, we were at 48.5% disadvantaged or low SES, and now we're at 57.4. And actually at the end of the year, I think that is just a little bit higher. Our SPED population from 2014 to 2018 went from 38.8% up to 43%. So we are 43% special ed at Lincoln. Why do I think that's a significant number? I think it's just a pretty good picture of what our school is made up of. With our ELL students, our SPED students, and our low SES students, we really are an at-risk school. Here's an alarming fact. 13 of our students have lost a parent in the last 2 to 3 years. When you're talking, you only have 243 students in your school. To me, this is a really alarming stat. What are our KISA goals moving forward? Relationships, relationships, and relationships. We decided, the district has chosen relevance and relationships, and I went to Mrs. Dinkel and asked her, I said, do we have to do a goal from both? Because I really think that the relationships at our school are most important right now. We have a lot of really needy families. We have, just a lot of needy students. And so we really wanted to focus on the relationships, getting along to our parents, getting out to our parents. We also looked at our survey data. And one of the things that we found from our survey data was our parents wanted to be involved. They wanted to know, how can we build relationships with other parents? How do I know if my son wants to go to Johnny's house and spend the night, how do I know that it's okay for him to go to Johnny's house? How do I meet those parents? And so we really want to focus on that. We really want to have more activities that our parents can come to. We have talked about a pizza bingo. We did our fun night, our family fun night, which was a big hit. We have done our reading night, which was they did that in the spring the last year. We're going to do that in the fall next year. So we'll have an event in the fall. We would like to have an event in the winter, and then we'll have our family fun night in the spring, with lots of other opportunities for our families to get involved, and we really want them to be involved. We want them to, come and see your students at lunch, see your students in the classroom. All of my teachers welcome parents, parents and other family members into their classroom, because we really think that that is the most important part of a student's education, is having that family involvement. And so we really, really are working on the relationships. Relationships with students, social and emotional curriculum. We think that's really important, and you can see by the needs of our students that is really important. Family time. When we talk about family time, we're talking about dividing our students into small groups in which we will call families. We will have a leader of each one of those families. We'll meet twice a month and just basically have an activity to work on building relationships with other students, and that will be a mixed group of K-5. We'll have 5th graders with kindergartners, 2nd grade, all the way up. That will be a mixed group. It's one of our goals for next year, to really get involved and get to know our students, find out what the needs are, find out how we can best help them, how can we build those relationships with them, not only with them, but also with their families. Our full-time counselor, that was a dream of ours, and it's coming true. Thank you. We're excited about that. Relationships with families, more opportunities to be involved, opportunities to meet other families, and then a parent mentorship program. One of the things that we have talked about for next year, getting some of our parents to volunteer to be mentors. Just putting your name and your phone number out there to other parents, and if there's other parents in the school that have a question or a problem, those numbers are there. Sometimes they always feel more comfortable. They might feel more comfortable talking to another parent, maybe not talking to a teacher or to a principal or to a board member. So putting that out there. I had the parent that actually brought this up to me, and I thought it was a really cool idea, said, I am a first-time 7th grade girl mom. I want to know, how do I survive this year? And, so putting that out there, that there are other parents that have been through what you are going through right now, and there is help and there is support. And, a lot of our students, they don't go to church. They don't go out in the community. They don't have those other ways to involve themselves in the community and getting those partnerships with other parents. We tend to become friends with those that our students are on sports teams or in their classes if we're a classroom mom. But if they're not involved in those types of things, then how do you get to know those parents? And I think more and more it's going to be the responsibility of our schools to help make that happen. Relationships with the community, giving students real-life experiences, and bringing in community businesses and members to expose our students. We want to take our kids out into the community. It was one of our goals. Get them out there, let them know, what's going on, what are their opportunities here in Hayes, where can they go. The public library is a really popular place. There are other places that students can go also to get involved, Hayes Recreation, all of those other things. And so we want to bring the community members into our school to help with that. Bethesda Place had some animals and other things there last week. That was pretty cool. We went to the Project Adventure Ropes course. Smoky Hill was involved with that, and our 5th grade students. That was really fun. I trusted my 5th grade students with my life as they harnessed me up and threw me 40 feet in the air. That was fun. It's probably going to be a tradition because, Mrs. Lacey would like to do that at least once a year. It was pretty awesome. Utilizing our resources. We had a chat with an astronaut and also bringing the Cosmosphere into the classroom. Thank you to the Dane G. Hansen Foundation. This chat with an astronaut, you can see on the right there, happened just last week, I think, or maybe the week before. And it actually, Dane Hansen sent out that it was going to be happening. The astronaut was from Hoxie, Kansas, and he was just interacting with students and getting questions answered. And our student, I think there was, out of our 12 classrooms, I think we had 9 of them that were listening in and really getting involved, and they thought that was really awesome. So one of the ways that we can utilize our resources. Our first grade construction crew, we had a construction day, which was cool. They had to earn points and then got to build all kinds of things, whether it was, you know, solving a math problem or solving a riddle. But then we had a construction day, so there's some pictures from there. Bringing our community in, the Fort Hays State University basketball team came in and shared with our second grade students. Also helping our community, our 5th grade had Beanie Baby sales. And they did this first semester, and we sold out in like the first morning. And we're like, whoa, this is a huge hit. This is pretty cool. And Mrs. Dryling had gone to an auction at the, out at the mall. They have those auctions, and there was a guy there that had tons and tons of Beanie Babies. And then it became the Beanie Babies and the Furbies, and we had another sale. And, you know, we sold 2 Furbies for $25, but gosh, they went like crazy. And then our family fun night, we sold the bigger Beanie Babies for $2 while our families were there, and we sold out in the first hour. So that was cool. All of that raised over $2,200, $2,249 for our community, just by getting those items from an auction, and our parents and our students got involved. We had a lot of daycare providers that came in, and they were buying bags of Beanie Babies, and they're like, oh no, this is a great gift for my students or for my daycare kids at Christmas. You know, they spent 50 cents on a Beanie Baby, and so it was just a really cool way to help out other places in our community and our parents. Inviting families in so we can share. We have them come in for our young writers. They come in and they're involved in that day. We share things on the wall in the classrooms, our poetry writing. We have families who come in and listen to our kids read. And so really getting our families involved in building those relationships. We had a mock trial. We had an author walk. So would you want to be a lawyer or an author? Maybe so. And so that was another way that we got our community involved and also gave those opportunities to our students. These are things that could happen and that what you could do. That was pretty awesome. How about an engineer? We built hot air balloons. We did the robotics activity not only at Fort Hays State, were we involved in the robotics fair, but our students have the opportunity 2 mornings a week. They can come in early and do robotics in our library. Mrs. Hammerschmidt helps out with that. An actor and actress, the famous figure competition. And that's always a fun thing for our 5th graders, not only at Lincoln, but also in the district. And then this, I don't know, Shana, you might have to click on this. We built boats out of cardboard, and I don't know if you can see this, but our 5th graders built boats out of cardboard and gray tape, duct tape, and then we went out to the Center for Health Improvement and raced them. This is a video, I didn't know that it was going to be turned sideways, but it's okay. This is a video of the final race. Everyone got to race, and these are actually the 3 boats that survived 3 other trips down the swimming pool, and so then we had the final race. But what a fun activity. The kids actually designed their boats first, talk about, you know, what would make this boat float, why would it float, giving them all those educational opportunities, you know, when they go to building their boats, and then actually getting to race them, and I thought that was pretty awesome. This is the 2nd year that we've gone out to CHI. And some more video.
Want to ask when you did that?
We went out there, I want to say it was the last Tuesday of April.
Okay. And mark that on my calendar for next time. I want to come watch.
I'll be sure to invite you. Yeah, it was pretty cool and really loud, out there at CHI. We also had, I guess I should say, we had a competition in our cafeteria. We have a competition in the cafeteria throughout the year where students can earn pizza parties. And what that is, there's a yellow, a green, and a red cup on their table, and every classroom starts with a red cup. And that just gives them the first 3 to 5 minutes to be quiet, eat your lunch, because we find out that they go into the lunchroom, they only have 20 minutes, but the first 15 they want to talk, and so then they're upset because they have to finish and go. So the first 5 minutes is being quiet, and then they move to a yellow cup, which is whispers only, talk, use your manners, and talk to the people at your table, and if you do a good job with that, you turn to green. And once you get that green cup and make it all the way upstairs following our school rules, then your teacher moves. I've got their teacher picture, and it moves on this chart going across, and once they get 10 days, they get a prize. The next 10 days, they get another prize, which might be, extra 10 or 15 minutes of recess that I will do, and then whoever is the farthest on the chart at the end of the 9 weeks wins a pizza party. And the K2 students one class will win a pizza party, and then the 3-5. Well, we decided that one of the prizes for the last 9 weeks was you get to go watch the boat races. So we took a kindergarten class and a 4th grade class with us. So CHI was really loud that day out there because it just echoes in there. The kindergarten students wanted to know when they could build their boats, and unfortunately they're going to have to wait a few years. But they have lots of time to figure out how they can make those float. So Lincoln Elementary really does link learning to life. We are striving to help students not only learn to read, write, and understand math, we are truly giving our students the skills to be lifelong learners and successful members of our community. Any questions? All right, well, thank you so
I
much.
do have a question, I guess.
Yes.
Sorry. You said your site council was how large now?
We had 22 people attend at the meeting. And then I think there's 9 members, I think, that I've listed there.
That's a good size.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Okay,
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Lacey. Moving on now to school spotlights.
I think I'll do the Buddy Bench spotlight first. Just end up having a thank you to the Kiwanis Club because they ended up helping the Roosevelt Elementary Student Council accomplish their goal of getting 2 buddy benches for their school playground, which is going to be put in this summer. Kiwanis Club contributed a donation from the Lonnie Clay Camp Memorial Fund to make this happen. Eva Young was the school counselor at Roosevelt who really spearheaded the project, so very happy to have that in play. And I think we have a number of individuals here that might want to speak on this. It's exciting to end up having Corey Isbell here and what she was able to accomplish with that Foot Locker scholarship is amazing. So maybe a couple from the high school would like to speak.
It's an honor. I want to welcome Jean Isbell to us, with us tonight also. It's Corey's mom. When I think of different terms, perseverant, courage, unafraid, energetic, soccer.
Yeah.
I think of soccer, band, basketball, 2 basketball manager. And I think of a class schedule that would rival any of yours probably. Advanced physics, Spanish 3, calculus methods, sociology, marching band. What do you play in marching band? Trombone. And career explorations. She also took AP English 4. Corey is she's just an exceptional kid. And she has a lot of perseverance, and she stayed the course. And it's been a challenging 4 years, I hope. But I also know that, that's what we're there for, is to challenge her with academics and situations and be a support system. And one of the most important support systems that I know she had the benefit of this year is Mrs. Stanger. So I just want you to know as a principal, we got a really cool scholarship that I'll let Sue Ellen tell you more about. But really, I want you to know beyond that scholarship, she's the real deal. She's just a really good kid and a wonderful representation to be a Hayes High Indian.
I just have a few words to say, and actually Corey knows that the one word that I use to describe her often is a rock star. Out of the, I'm sure, thousands of students I've had, Corey just ranks right up there in the top 10 for sure. So Corey applied for the Foot Locker Scholarship, and there were over 13,000 students who applied nationwide, and only 20 scholarships were awarded nationwide, and Corey was the recipient of one of them. And I'm just excited to keep in touch with her and see all the great things that she's going to continue to accomplish. She's awesome.
You want her to shake hands?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very proud of you. Congratulations.
She's going to Pomona College in California.
So I was going to ask, is where are you off to next?
It's a full ride scholarship.
Oh, congratulations.
That's amazing.
Is that all of your spotlights?
That was all the, yeah.
Okay. What, do you have something for your report of superintendent?
Yeah, I did want to end up sharing, there was a request, and it really was right in line with what we need to be pointing out, and that would be, Luke had asked at the last meeting to see what kind of a schedule could exist. We have from the state right now a budget for 5 years. Now, I know there's doubters, and there's great reason to have doubt as to what will happen over the 5 years, but the fact remains, we do have a 5-year budget. And looking at that budget, I would say that we have played the game the last number of years of just trying to wait and wait and wait to see what we have, and then try to slap together a budget that might work the next year. Just that's how we did it. I mean, I hate to admit that, but that's largely how it's been done. And in this particular case, to end up saying, I know the totals look pretty big there. When you end up looking at the totals going through that of $975,000, and then the next year $1,040,000. These are all in thousands. And then the next is $1,250,000. You can go across and see how much money that would be added to. The reason why I say that is because at this point, we're looking at about $1.4 million for this year. Next year, and the year after, and the year after, and the year after, is supposed to be about $650,000, about half of that, $650,000. So if you add those in there, these numbers are realistic, and we are not ignoring other things such as raises. They would need to be in there as well. But looking at these other numbers are numbers that we've not been able to really consider because we just were more in a survival mode instead of really having the money to consider it. And what I mean is when you're saying our special ed co-op has done an amazing job for 5 years of not asking for more money. And it has put them in a spot where they have to. And to say, okay, there's $80,000 is what could be placed in that. That's what's being recommended. Our contingency, I repeat it, I'll repeat it again and again. Our contingency, even though people may say, well, there's $900 and some thousand there, I gotta repeat, we pay $2.4 million a month for our salaries and wages. Okay, with the fringe, I mean, that's how much is spent. You should have at least 1 month's contingency. We have $900,000, so it sounds like an awful lot of money, But for our organization and being able to have the security of paying our staff for 1 month, it needs to be really 2.4 million. So that's why the 300 is there, trying still to build that up. Another could be refilling positions. We added positions last year. We added 7, special ed added some, we added classified positions. We committed some real money into this last year. And when you hire new people, that carries each year. It's not just the money for 1 year, you're paying that every year. So it was higher last year. The 200,000 for this year is still really, with fringe benefits tied to it, only 2.5 positions. You know, it's not a large number that we're considering with that. Then you have bond, the possibility of that, and the money for election, trying to pull back so fundraising doesn't have to take care of things like jerseys. You know, it seems like that should be a requirement the district pays for instead of fundraising doing that. You have the capital outlay salaries, you know, the $265,000 that comes out of capital outlay to pay for maintenance and custodial. And trying to get that, maybe not all paid at the same time, but over 5 years, try to end up getting that paid or moved. Because if you move it, basically it's coming out of general fund then, and it looks like you don't have as much money if you're pulling it from that spot. But then you have that money for capital outlay projects or paying your leases that you've already committed to. Wage study, we're working on that, and in all likelihood to try to end up arranging for make adjustments to that. We'll end up taking some extra money in the next few years. Fees, we've already committed to that to some degree, and look like we would be maybe trying to do more in the future. Programs. Now the programs that's listed as at-risk programs, we are directed. We must end up trying to identify more specifically ways in which we're helping our at-risk population. And that is something that we need to try to do. Professional development, we really don't have much money in. And just putting $10,000, that's exciting. I mean, that's not near enough, but that's still having some money that's tied to that. 20,000, how many years have we not increased our teaching supply budget? You know, for especially those equipment like science. You know, you can go 5 years and we're trying to still do the same purchasing with money that was 5 years ago or maybe further. Maybe I should be saying 8 years ago. Well, things have increased in cost from 8 years ago till now, but there hasn't been an increase in those lines to pay for that equipment. And trying to end up just making sure we funnel more money so we're actually tending to it at that point. And then textbooks. Textbooks, we have to have money in that particular area because every few years there's a sizable amount that just has to be put into that so we have current materials. So I'm throwing this out there for the board to see. Not that these numbers all have to be. Any of that could change. It doesn't have to be the way that is. But it was work that Keith and myself and some others had looked at that. We've worked on it just to say, okay, here's numbers that could work. The numbers still end up allowing, there's still more money that's available for other things that are needed. But if you look at that, it really might in 5 years take care of some real deficiencies that our budget has had for a number of years. But it's quite a commitment when you look at that kind of money in areas that we really haven't funneled too much into over the last 6 years. Just haven't. I guess any questions at this point? Now, I'm not proposing that this is going to be what it is, okay? I'm just saying this is what it could be.
But to stress, these are areas where we really haven't put money into lately because we haven't had the money available.
That's right. Now,
But now we have some money from the state,
I will say that we did,
more stable.
2 years ago and three.
Well, some,
We
yes.
did put some money into contingency. We have been trying to do that. And there are some, but it's not much, you know, not like this looks. This is pretty aggressive, really trying to take care of it. But it's different when you're focusing and looking over, you really have a budget you can look forward to. And you're saying, well, we're supposed to get this money. So when you're actually calculating it out and say, okay, we have this much money this year, and the next year we have 650,000 more new dollars, and the year after that we have $650,000 new dollars on top of that, you can maybe make a plan like this.
I think that was the word I was going to use, was it's great to see, you know, again, it doesn't have to be a definite, but it's great to see kind of a plan, you know?
Right.
And you're right, there might be one area where we suddenly find that, oh, we need to, you know, it's the, I'm trying to pick a category here. Maybe we decide that refilling positions, we're going to need an extra 30,000 or 40,000, and we really, there is a vacancy and we need to fill that now. But it's nice to see where that all would play out and what we may have to make a cut in another area. And so.
Now, most of those, if you follow it, I'm just pointing this out, you may have caught it. Most of those, if you put money into it this year, you're putting the same amount or more the next year. I mean, it carries. The one that doesn't is like the savings. The savings is contingency. Contingency, if you put 300,000 into it this coming year, you don't have to put it in the next year. It doesn't bind you the next year. But if you hire new personnel, for instance, you're spending that amount the next year again. You know, if you're, so just to point that out, it's just, and if you're committing to things like professional development and you want to put $10,000 into it, it's kind of hard to play the roller coaster game. If you want to end up having a real plan, you commit an amount that you have the next year too, and the next year. You know, I would not suggest that you put an over amount there of, oh, we've got it, let's put $50,000 in, but then the next year just put $10,000. I think you should try to find that amount that actually can work as a budget, and you're working that every year, and maybe increase it slightly if need be, but that's what I'm saying as far as the budgeting part of it.
In the textbooks category, did some of that include digital software, or is that just actual?
This is going to be all the other materials. Yes.
Okay.
Now, excuse me, when you say digital materials, if you're talking about what they can get off of the online books, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for this.
Keith, you're up next.
Okay, John talked about the future. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's kind of going on now. Right there, you're looking at we're going to talk about our current budget first, then we'll talk about the April activity and capital outlay. Excuse me, and finally we've moved forward on republishing our budget, so I'll spend some time talking about that too. First of all, let's look at the expenditure report that we generate this through Alio. You can see, I don't know if you can see it up there right now, maybe, but on the right-hand side, it shows the percent used and what we have in our available balance. And for this conversation, we're talking about general fund, which is 01 right there at the top, supplemental general, which is 02, and then also Fund 13, which are our at-risk fund. All those are funds that we pay salaries out of, and between 75–80% of our budget are salaries, so those are the ones we pay the most attention to. To get an idea where we are currently, we look at the history and compare it to now. When I total these three funds and compare it to last year, I can see our budget is becoming a little more into focus as well as it should. I mean, we're in May. I still feel like we're going to be down a little in our cash balances, but since we had money to transfer a year ago, and especially we're getting some new money this next year that John talked about, I feel good at where we're at this time. And in a month, of course, we'll know exactly where we're at. Really not a whole lot to talk about with budget, so it's pretty bland, which is what we want this time of year. Are there questions about that? Okay. All right, so let's talk about, I'm going to give you a verbal report on capital outlay. I did not post the the posting that we usually do, and this will kind of just let you know what we've done for activity out of capital outlay. Our building and grounds spent $17,000 out of capital outlay this month. They spent $700 on roof repair, $8,300 on summer custodial supplies, $1,800 on HVAC maintenance and repair, a couple $1,000 for plumbing, and $4,000 to HTK for design work on the secure entrances. Any questions about that? Okay, we'll move on to IT, and they spent $350 on network tools is all they spent out of that fund. And I should mention they were involved in a joint venture with Fort Hays State for their technology guys, their computer techs for a capstone project, so it's always good to see we're involved with those guys. And then they'll use those tools later on, of course, in the department. Transportation did not use any capital outlay funds in April, but we do have a new bus that will arrive in June. That was ordered back in October. Questions so far? Okay, so let's talk about republishing a little bit. Since we're going to receive around $25,000 in new money in our general fund that we did not predict, and that's due mostly to an increase in our at-risk head count that Mrs. Lacey was talking about, so we've generated some more dollars there. We need to republish our budget, and the reason for republishing is we need to have authority to spend what we received from the state. That means we use the same process you used back when you did your budget in August, when you went through the whole approval process. We'll publish in the paper today. We put it in today, and it'll have to be 10 days before the board can approve it. Probably at the June 17th board meeting, you'll have a brief budget hearing, and it'll go. If all goes as planned and it's approved, then we'll have the authority to spend that. There was something else I was going to mention about that. It'll come back to me. The other thing that we're going to republish is our special ed budget, and I'm going to ask Mr. Hipp to talk about that a little bit.
So the special ed, inside your budget, there's two different special ed funds. One is the district, where the district spends their money, and then the co-op. So you have to republish, the 49 will republish their Fund 30 or their special ed budget, because what happens is state aid flows through the district to the co-op. And this time of year, so we're in the process of getting ready to work on those same numbers, but you have to estimate how much you're going to get by this time next year in special ed aid. And simply, categorical aid, or that per teacher entitlement, went up quite a bit. It was 27 something last year. This year it was actually 30,610. So it jumped a little more than what they thought it would last year this time. And then there were also a couple of open positions that got filled, and since then we've added a few paras here and there. So every time we add staff, as you know, it increases our expenses, but it increases the entitlement because we get reimbursed per teacher from the State Department for special education. So really what we're doing is kind of the same thing as on the general fund side. We're getting a little more in special ed state aid, so we just need to republish to get the authority so that you have the authority to receive it and then pay the co-op for the services.
One thing that I think is really important that I should mention is if any patrons ask you, there'll be no tax levy increase, anything like that through this. This is just money that we didn't anticipate we were going to receive. We need authority to spend, and so we need to publish it and go through the process. So, questions?
Is that republishing the budget? I don't recall doing that last year. Is this uncommon?
Go ahead.
Well, the answer, Luke, is we were fortunate and guessed well at the beginning of the
I don't
year.
remember.
I mean, it's just that case.
Yeah, that's fine.
Every school district is in a mode of trying to guess the best they can. But there's a lot of districts that do republish at the end of the year, so they can end up getting full use of that money.
Well, I'm
But we
told by
did not.
2 other board members that we actually did last year, and I just forgot, so.
They're just really like always a short little, if it wasn't last year, it was the year before, but
It was the year before.
Okay.
It's like right before the other meeting.
No, that's fine. It was just a general question. Good.
Usually on the special ed side, we try to estimate high enough just didn't estimate high enough coming into this year.
Anyway, I see it, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't a complaint. I was just asking
Yeah,
a
no,
process question, not a complaint question.
Anything else, Keith?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda tonight includes the board meeting minutes from April 29th, 2019, personnel transactions, which includes 3 retirees we'd like to note. Joan Steinkühler from O'Laughlin, she's a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher with 11 years of service. William Steinkühler, transportation bus driver, 6 years of service. And Alexis Robinson, Hayes High HMS accompanist, 29 years of service. So thank you to those 3 for their years of service to the district. Also included in the consent agenda is the approval of the bills, the financial report, clerk's report, and investment report.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member Young. Is there any discussion? Call for the, yes?
One, just out of curiosity, because I saw on the funds that you shared, Keith, there's nothing that has been spent out of the grant for Oak Park, but we've been making payments to Paul Wurtenberger, so I was curious if that was coming from the Hayes Med grant or from our loan.
I'm going to say that that hasn't been posted on there because I was thinking that at least one of those payments has come out of those grants.
I just signed a check tonight for one, to Paul Wurtenberger,
Yes.
so.
Let me check that because I thought one of them did, Sophia. For sure. Yeah.
Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to old business, we'll have Matt Allen from Paul Wurtenberger to give us an Oak Park Medical Complex update.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here. So we normally have our tour before this meeting, but we actually have our normal meeting this Thursday. So if anyone is available or wants to come out for a site visit, we'll have our normal meeting at 10 and they can tour the site after that. So I'll just give a brief overview of where we're at with each of the buildings and then open up to any questions. So overall demolition work is complete in all 4 buildings, which is well ahead of what we predicted. So that work has gone well. The unfavorable weather in regards to construction otherwise has probably helped that a little bit. So building 1, drywall work will be done this week, and we'll also start painting in that building this week. Ceilings are scheduled to go back into the classrooms probably the first week in June. In building 2, the mechanical electrical rough-in work will be complete this week and hopefully get drywall started in that building next week. Where we've really jumped ahead a little bit from what we had on our original schedule was in building 4. A lot of the drywall work will be done in that building next week, which we weren't even scheduled to be into that building until middle of June. So that's gone fairly well. And then, like I mentioned, building 3, we'll start framing back those walls this week and continue to progress in there. We are building new cabinets and refurbishing the existing cabinets at our shop here. Just started that this week, so start seeing some of those pieces come into play, and a lot of the finishes really start to go back here in the next month. So, but overall, we're pleased with the way everything is progressing. So,
And on track for August?
yeah, I mean, we don't see anything. There's no hiccups that we're aware of that anything would prevent that from happening. So,
Pleased to hear we're ahead of schedule.
yeah.
Anyone have any questions for Matt?
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
Huh?
It's good to hear when things go well.
Next on the agenda is...
Can I just
Yes,
share?
sure.
He did welcome any of the board members to come to the meeting, but please remember the meetings are at their place. It's at that office, it's not here.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're not necessarily wanting to come to the meeting, I mean, those usually last 45 minutes to an hour, so if you would want to even just do a site visit, probably around 11. Or like if any time it doesn't work in your schedule, give us a call at the office. We can arrange to have Brian give you a tour at the site, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know if you remember, Matt, but I will not be at this next one on Thursday. I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay.
I appreciate them though.
Yep.
Next on the agenda is the Hayes High School parking lot replacement project bid. So Rusty had presented this last time. Does anyone care to make a motion?
Make the motion to approve Brian Concrete Services for the Hayes High School parking lot replacement project.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member Walker. Open it up for any discussion or questions for Rusty at this time. You getting sick of coming here? I think this one was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's consistent with the past bids, so
I think it was cheaper than the past one. Was it last year or something else? So yeah, it's very open and shut.
seeing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Next is the district door lock project bid. Again, Rusty presented this last time.
I'll move to approve the Royal Architectural Products to supply door locks for the district.
Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second that one.
Okay. Go ahead and open it up for discussion.
I think I had one. I forgot to ask ahead of time. It wasn't a very hard question, I don't think. But you said that you've worked with both Royal Architecture and IML Security Supply? They're both the two lower bids.
Right, and we work with both of them, we buy product from both of them,
Okay. So I'm like, they're both good to work with.
yes.
Just with that little slight price difference, I wasn't sure if it was worth looking into who provided better service and quality, but.
No, I would
Work
use
with
either
both.
one of them with no problems.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Yep.
Is there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. All right, next we've got a bunch of revision handbook stuff. So the first one is classified handbook.
I'm not too excited.
Yeah, I know. First one is the classified handbook.
I'll move to approve the revised classified handbook as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member Oborny. Go ahead and open it up for any discussion at this point. Anybody have anything?
I guess maybe it's just a general question. So we'll be, as I understand, we're really adopting what was previously negotiated with SIU, and I can't see it back there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just that podium is in the worst place ever.
So we're basically, just making sure I'm clear, is that we're just adopting in the standing agreement was made, and
That's not 100% correct.
Okay,
There was
okay.
some pieces of that were taken out, and I don't have it before me to where I can, get into the weeds with it, but there was some of it that was removed. It wasn't adopted 100%
Okay.
in. We just looked at the pieces that we wanted to consider now as we went forward with some of the other steps.
all right. And the plan is to look at this as a unified whole in the next year to
That's correct.
try to meet. Okay.
I appreciate you explaining this to us a little bit better too. And I guess for me, the standing point is you support this. This is what you're presenting to us as we should approve. And John, you support this as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any questions or comments?
How does approving this handbook, classified handbook, relate to the classified study that we're doing?
Actually, the classified, the wage study that we're going to end up doing we'll end up fusing together with that over the next year. That's kind of what was just said. We're going to work with that over the next year to end up making possible adjustments so that it ends up benefiting our classified staff overall. That's the intention.
When do we expect the wage study to be done?
It's this month.
This month?
Yeah, before the end of May, it'll be done.
Anything else? Go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Board policy revisions are next.
There were only, I think, 2. And I think if you look through them, there was just a minor change, an added sentence that was needed for one of them. If you were able to look through that, let's see. Yeah, evaluations of administrators will be available for review by the Board of Education prior to the renewal contract. That was added to it. And then the vision screenings and the hearing screenings, we needed to change the wording in that because that was incorrect. That had changed, so.
Okay.
That was it.
Have a motion to move forward with these?
I'll move to approve the board policies as presented.
Getting after it tonight, Paul.
Let's get those policies.
It's been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member Young. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Administrative handbook revisions.
There was nothing more than what we had talked about the last time, and that had to do with the crisis item. That was it.
And that was just the number of crisis drills that we have to do in the course of the year. And they did that basically this year too, right?
Right.
So. I know I got a notice every time a school was doing one. I was like,
Yeah, everybody. Okay. I'll move to approve the.
I like it.
Move to approve the revisions to the administrative handbook as presented.
It's my turn to second one of these, so I'll second it.
All right.
I do have a question, and I apologize because
No.
I think I just went off. Was it last meeting that there was an exclusion, like we approved something and then we excluded a whole section to go back and fix? Am I thinking
That was
too
on the
far back?
previous one where Greg asked for the contracts of the administrative staff to be renewed. That was the previous one, and that has been changed.
Yeah, so that was the other. Yep.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you for reminding me.
A lot of policies.
And that verbiage is very clearly written in there. So.
Okay, cool.
Anything else? All right, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Next thing on the agenda is the 2019-2020 board meeting calendar, and if I remember correct, it was basically a mirror image of this past year's.
It was, and I didn't get anybody who called to ask questions about it, so I again assumed that it was satisfactory to the board.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and move to approve the 2019-2020 board meeting calendar as presented.
Your turn.
Second.
Been moved by Board Member Adams, second by Board Member Oborny. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to new business.
I'd like to say, I love that we're going to have a board meeting the first official day of our new superintendent.
Oh, really? I didn't even pay attention.
Well, that's also our reorganization day, to switch president to authorize.
That's my last day of this gig on.
We have to do that each year.
But we haven't voted yet, Mandy. Don't get too excited.
Yeah, we can always redo
I got a countdown on my number of meetings left.
I think if the 6 of us vote for
We
it,
vote you
vote
in,
yes,
because
I
I
think
mean, you
you're
can't
still
leave.
in. That's all I'm saying.
I have to file for re-election if I'm going to be on the board.
We can draft you.
All right, moving on, new business, workers' compensation and cyber liability renewal. Keith?
Yes, I have Mark Skidmore here from Assurance Partners, and they've worked on the workman's comp rates. They've had those for a while, and they've been working on the property and casualty, and Mark's going to talk about that with us this evening. Hi, Mark.
Hello, Keith.
Thank you all for your time tonight. Did you hand out the email that we sent?
No, we had talked about you were going to make copies for him.
Okay. I do have those. What is up on the screen right now is our workers' compensation renewal. We have been with United Heartland and have had a great relationship with them, and we think they are. Have all of those. Any one of these, one of those. United Heartland just does a fantastic job at larger school districts in the state of Kansas. And you can see that their renewal offer is extremely attractive. You all should be commended in keeping your experience modification in check. We are currently at a 0.96. Your experience modification is a grade in workers' compensation of 3 years worth of history, not counting the most recent 12 months. The single page handout that I provided also is a workers' compensation deductible analysis that we analyze in-house. I would like for you all to consider increasing your per claim deductible from $2,500 to $5,000 on your workers' compensation. When we analyze these results, our experience modification would be lower at a 0.89. So on the single page handout, the top row is your deductible expense. If we had that deductible, here's what you would pay on average to fund said deductible. So at $5,000, you would pay $27,000 a year to fund that. The next row is our premium credit. How much are we going to save on the premium? So we would save $31,000 on a manual premium. That's out of the rating manuals. It gets a little wonky when we go back to the actual offer from United Heartland. But we look at all of these factors, what your experience modification would be down the road had we had a larger deductible. Kansas is a net reporting state, so NCCI doesn't see the claims that we've paid back to the insurance company. So it's able to protect our mod and keep it low over a longer period of time. So if you go to the bottom row of the $5,000 deductible on the single page handout, you'll see that we're estimating a savings of $48,000 had you had a $5,000 deductible as opposed to $35,000 at a $2,500. Now, all we can do is take what's happened in the past and lay it going forward. But given your recent track record and helping drive your workers' compensation claims costs down, we thought it made sense to look at raising the deductible. And up on the screen, you have both the $2,500 deductible and the $5,000 option.
And Mark, I just want to share, this was questioned last year too, and we stayed with the 25. So here's a good point that we should have changed it to 5,000 probably. Yeah.
Sometimes we get lucky.
Yeah.
Well, and as we go to the next section, you'll see our workers' compensation is down, but our property insurance is going to offset that. So that was the other reason why we wanted to make sure that you all looked at the $5,000 deductible. We feel like you've got a really good handle on your safety programs and your claims.
Not to interrupt your presentation, but I think that needs to be pointed out that, even in the 4 years I've been on here, that's something our current administration has done a great job working on to bring down, because I don't remember what it was, but I can remember Tracy giving us a number that was scary for us. 4 years ago, I don't think those programs were in place, and I mean, that's definitely something that's been...
They weren't, and I don't know what your experience modification was, but I can see back on some numbers in the multi-page handout that I handed out, I know your total insurance costs in 2014 were $391,000. And we're projecting our insurance cost for next year at 317. So that's really administration's job and staff's job driving that down. So. There is our cyber liability quote up on the screen there. That is purchased in a group purchasing program with the Kansas Educators Risk Management Pool. The cyber liability insurance doesn't function in the pool, but the group as a whole purchases cyber policy. We're able to get a cheaper rate there. So that's a flat renewal. That policy actually renews in July. So if you want to look at the multi-page handout, there is a complete proposal of your insurance from property coverage to our automobile fleet to our general liability, and I'm happy to answer any questions on this. I apologize. This was hot off the press when I left the office today. School leaders, errors and omissions coverage, crime policy, and both workers' compensation and cyber are in there. So our property renewal is still being negotiated. There will still be some options that we look at. Currently, the district has a $1,000 property deductible in the Kansas Educators Risk Management Pool. We're going to look at an option of raising that up to offset what the property rate increase is doing right now. The last 3 years of property insurance across the whole country has just been catastrophe after catastrophe, and we don't have to look any further than what's happened outside today and the floods in Nebraska to know that the insurance marketplace in the last 90 days has really kind of been very timid in their pricing. So the folks at Gallagher who administer your pool are still kind of negotiating the structure of the program out. We'll ask for Hayes to have options of raising our property deductible, and over the next 30 days we'll know whether or not we think that makes sense for you or not. $1,000 deductible for a schedule of your size is really low. It's part of why we went in the pool. The pool is a great program. You know, if I don't know who was here in 2015 when 489 decided to be a founding member of the pool, but the pool is up to 21 districts now, and the theory of pooling is working. We have just in your funds with your name on them, over $100,000 in potential dividends to come back to 489. The pool is finalizing their dividend or dividend structure. Payments should start hitting in 2020 for you. The 15-16 year, we had $26,000 worth of loss fund. You'll notice on the back page of this proposal some of the increases in our loss fund. So our loss fund is going to go to $36,596. Those are funds that, while they have to be paid into Gallagher, that's really your money to be paid back if we have profitable years. So the pooling concept is working. Unfortunately, the reinsurance marketplace is kind of playing havoc with our renewal. But the 21 districts still feel like there's enough benefit that the 21 districts together can buy in a pooling concept better than each individual district could on their own.
What is a realistic time frame for them to get that worked out for the renewal?
The actual mechanics of the end. Actually, CERMP has a board meeting on Thursday, so I would anticipate that your renewal should be finalized on Thursday. Then we'll ask for a couple of options just to raise our maintenance deductible to see if it makes any sense for you all. and then we'll have that back out to you probably the 1st of June.
Thank you.
I know that's a lot of pages, and I'm happy to answer any questions. There was a 4%, part of our anticipated increase is a 4%, I believe, inflation guard on our buildings. So the pool wanted everybody's values to keep rising with the increased cost of construction. So.
Anyone have any questions at this point?
To clarify, you're recommending that we move from a $2,500 deductible to $5,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when we get to the point when you're going to look at the maintenance deductible, is that correct?
Yes, on the first page halfway down.
I'm sorry, the property deductible?
Yep, on the property.
What do you anticipate, can you guess what you might recommend? Does it go from 1,000 to 2,000?
You know, I think it'll make sense when we see the savings. I'll probably look all the way up to 10.
Okay.
But I normally have a number. If I'm looking to recommend a deductible increase, I'm expecting you to be able to recoup your increased deductible expense back in a 5-year period.
Okay.
So if we're not saving $9,000 in 5 years, I'm not even going to look at it. And sometimes there becomes a pretty logical. You could look at it and say, okay, that's where we should go.
Okay.
So.
Very good, thanks.
Good. Am I done?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the SPED district assessment.
So I'm going to, a little bit of today is going to be recap from last week, or last month, I'm sorry, last board meeting, whatever that was, when we were together last time. But I also wanted to go through and talk a little bit about, you guys are third of the 4 stops around the co-op for board meetings. Just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what does the co-op bring to you. Now, as the host district, you get to hear about the co-op probably more often than maybe even you want. But, so when we look at the special education co-op, on the left side here, we've got what I would call local service providers. So these are the folks like the resource room teachers that are in each one of the buildings and working with all of the students there, resource teachers and paras. So you can see some of the counts. We got 10 special education teachers at the elementary level, 4.5 at the middle school, 6 at the high school, and para numbers to go with. School psychologists and speech language paths that travel, they all share at least a couple of buildings. And then we also have staff in the private schools also, which is one of the partnership that we have with the private schools here in Hayes is great. I mean, it's not typical. You would have to search high, far and wide to find the kind of relationship that we have both directions. So we'd actually have staff there, placed there. Now, on the right side, we've got the co-op resources. So this includes, in a lot of cases, folks that are actually here in our building. So if you look down at special programs, well, Spark and STAR, or our low incidence classrooms, are actually in the buildings here in Hayes. But those teachers, so like Spark, for instance, the gifted program, we have 3 certified teachers and there's 3 paras right now. They're serving kids that are potentially from all around the co-op. STAR classroom at the elementary, and then the low incidence programs at middle school and high school. That's another 7 teachers and 35, 40 paras that are, again, primarily 75% of the kids are probably Hayes kids and they're in the Hayes buildings, but they're also, I consider those co-op resources because they are serving potentially kids from other buildings as well. So other co-op resources are our itinerant staff that travel around based on student needs. So everything from autism intervention team, adapted physical education, to teacher of the visually impaired, who not only serves our co-op, but then we also sell time to surrounding co-ops because it's so rare to find someone. And we're working with a gentleman right now who's working under a waiver, working to get certified. So it's hard to find people to be teacher of the visually impaired, but then also your critical mass. It's a low incidence disability, so there's not a lot of the kids around, so it makes sense for us to share and work with other co-ops to share those resources. So across the co-op, just to give broad perspective, there's about 72 certified teachers, about 112 FTE, but as we talked about before, our pairs don't work the full instructional day, so when it comes to full-time equivalents, it's actually about 120, 130 bodies, folks, that are making up that 112 full-time equivalents. So that's a little perspective on the co-op. I'm going to talk, recap just a little bit, our revenue and expenditures. So expenses this year for Sped Co-op, we're guessing are going to be somewhere around 7.5 million. And that number is still a little bit of an estimate because we've got a few payrolls left to run. And this time of year, Keith and I were talking about that today. As 2 months ago, when we look at expenses, we're still anticipating everybody's going to work every hour that they were supposed to, especially the non-certified. But as you get to this time of year, and now with the final time cards in, we can actually do the math on it. But you'll start to see unpaid leave show up. And so the good news is our carryover estimate over the last 2 months has gone up because our total expenses, our estimates are going down. Now, you'll see in a minute, that's still not great news because we're still going to be down in carryover. But this is where we're at as far as what we think our expenses are going to be as compared to previous fiscal year. Looking at revenues, our federal money stays pretty flat. That gets based on December 1 head count. State revenue, as we talked about, is based on the number of teachers and pairs that we have, which is all in now. Now we're waiting on. The thing that can change at this point is if people around the state, and this happens, believe it or not, it happens every year. If people around the state don't accurately report how many staff they have throughout the year, then what happens is in the next couple of days, when we get the final per teacher entitlement, we have to live through a reduction in per teacher because people will add in. Last year it was over 100, so the drop in state aid, this time last year was about $100 per FTE, per teacher. So it hurts you pretty bad. All I can tell you is ours is accurate and will always be accurate, but it's not that case. I don't know what. Yeah. They'll report, for instance, 75 full-time teachers all the way up until this last report. May 15th is our last day to fill out the personnel report. So you keep it updated online, and they'll go from 75 to 80. They've had 80 all year, but they reported 75 last year, and it happens. So we'll see what our per teacher entitlement is, but our revenue estimate there is going to be somewhere around 7.2, 7.3, which means then our carryover is about 1.5 is what we're guessing it's going to be, and that's give or take right now. We'll know a little bit more for sure, but when you look at, we talked about this last month, when we look at our historical carryover, that number goes down pretty steep. And so at this point, we have Council of Superintendents meeting later this week, and I'll be recommending to them a 5% increase to district assessments. And like we talked about last month, that doesn't stop the decline in carryover, but that's okay. It slows it enough to where it can stabilize us, and then we can look at it again next year and see, okay, where are we at? As I start to estimate what are we going to spend next year using some real rough numbers, I think with a 5% increase to district assessment, federal money is going to stay flat. State aid, while in my report it looks like state aid is going up, that's simply because of an increase in the number of teachers and the number of paras. So we estimate an increase. The per teacher entitlement will stay the same. So that stays pretty flat in relation to our expenditures. The 5% increase in assessment, I think, will level us off and will carry over. We'll only be down single digits next year in carryover, which starts to put us probably about where we need to be. Like Mr. Thisson was talking about, contingency reserve for the co-op should be 1 month of payroll or 1 month of expenses. We spend about 6.25 every month, and so I like between 1 and 2 in carryover, 1 or 2 months worth, because our expenses can really fluctuate based on student needs. So if a student moves in or something happens, we may have really expensive things come up. So 1 or 2 months in carryover is a pretty good place to be. So at the end of next year, I anticipate we'll be right around that 2 months worth of expenditures in carryover. Then we can make decisions that way. So the final thing there is what it would look like for a 5% increase, and Mr. Thisson had up on your projections, that $80,000. Now, that $80,000 isn't an exact number because we base this on percent membership in the co-op. So once we get the audited FTE for this school year, the 18-19 school year, then the percentages might change. So instead of being 75.35%, you might be 74.35 or whatever. Just depends on how those FTEs change around the co-op. But I guess I'm letting you know that I'm recommending 5% increase, and we'll have superintendent's meeting Wednesday. Then at our next meeting, hopefully, they'll have a recommendation to act on. And all I can tell you right now is my recommendation to them is 5%. Haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback. I've been to 2 of the 3 member districts board meetings, and I'll be in Ellis first part of June. So, but nobody's throwing stones at me.
It's a lot of board meetings.
Yeah. It's all right. It's good. It's all good stuff. You get to talk about some of the good stuff we do too, along with the money that it costs to do it.
The one thing Chris did not share that I think was probably important and the board should hear is over the last 5 years, we're talking about a 5% increase in 5 years. And in other districts, other co-ops, I'm sorry, he's asked other directors, and let's just say there's none that's been that small. Others have been well over 10% over the last 5 years.
Over the last 2 years, the average for the region, which there's 9 co-ops that are in our KSTE region, the average is probably 12% over the last 2 years. And we're 5 of 0, so.
Okay. Thank you. All right, does anybody have any additional discussion or agenda requests at this time?
Is there an update on naming Oak Park?
No, that'll be on the agenda. We do need to, but there's no update really at this point on that.
Mandy, do you want me to just preamble that there will be a doodle poll for the new superintendent expectations setting? So I'll be sending you out some dates for.
They sent out like 80 dates on there. There's a lot. So
One of the dates does happen to be the same day as our organizational meeting. So I don't know if there would be a preference to do before or after, but I'll include that for that day at least.
Thank you, Sarah. And we do need executive session.
Yes.
How long do you need?
15, 20 minutes?
Okay. So I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception. Subject to be discussed during executive session is negotiations between the Board of Education and the Hayes NEA. Open session will resume at, let's go 8:20, so we can have a bathroom break. And the Tepfer boardroom. Those persons to include in addition to the Board of Education are the superintendent. I'm having lots of feedback tonight. And the financial director. You need Bill?
Yes, please, and also Shanna
Okay.
and Chris, please.
So the board attorney, the assistant superintendent, and the sped director. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.